Thank you, Attorney General, for coming today.
Sure.
There's no secret about how I feel. Absolutely no secret. And I'm appalled. Absolutely appalled. And I'm appalled even further about the discussion today, because if the same thing had occurred on the East Coast, how much more of a ruckus we would have heard, how much more we would have actually taken into consideration. I'm the only member on this committee that's from Arizona. Yeah, we lost a border agent, but we're further impugned because these guns are going to show up at crime scenes, particularly in Arizona, from here to whenever, as well as the Mexican government and the Mexican people have lost over 300 people. And I think that I'm very taken back by when you said, you know, we shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be gun walking. And that everybody knows that that's inappropriate. Well, I'll tell you what, that shows me exactly why I'm so appalled, is that if there was a doctrine out there that said, listen, if you walk guns, you're going to do time. That's the penalty that should be placed here, because that's what we're going to have to endure. And I'm finding it very upsetting that Arizona is taking this on the face and we trivialize what's going on here. I think we should be able to share all information, not to find out exactly who exactly authorized this. And I think we talked about in line, people that have been moved from Arizona up the line to DOJ. Having that discussion to find out how this came about, because this is in our backyard. Don't you agree?
I agree with, you've said a lot.
Don't you agree that we shouldn't trivialize this?
No, and it has not been trivialized. This is obviously, at least not by me. This is.
Do you think it's appropriate that we just say, don't do it? You shouldn't be doing gun walking. Or do you say, it shouldn't be done, and if it is done and you're found culpable and you're a participant in this, that you should be held to the same standards that the rest of us are?
Well, I mean, what I did after I found out about gun walking was to issue a directive that said this is unacceptable, don't do it, and you will be held accountable if, in fact, you do it.
So you will agree with me that if they do this, then they're going and they're put before a jury of their peers, that they would do criminal time?
I don't know about criminal time. I mean, one has to look at the facts of a particular case, and if somebody did something with criminal intent, I mean, sure, that would be appropriate. But if somebody did something with criminal intent, I mean, that's you know, you've got to get past, you know, beyond a reasonable doubt, and there's a whole variety of things.
But you just can't slap somebody's hand on this and just say, don't do it again. What I'm seeing here is something inappropriate, and that is in Main Street America, we don't get these same kind of privileges to make mistakes. And we're dealing with people's lives. You know,
well, you know, we actually do have a situation in which people who engage in straw purchasing and in some forms of gun trafficking actually do get slaps on the wrist, and that's why we need a stronger gun trafficking law, and we need greater penalties when it comes to straw purchasing, because we have, as I think Agent Facelli described, people who essentially are being charged as if they were speeding. That is unacceptable.
So straw purchasing. So let me ask you, with the FFLs, you know, the federal firearms licensees, no new regulations on them. They did everything that they were told to do, and then some. They kept even pounding people, saying this is ungodly. This same guy is coming in here, and we got ATF saying sell the guns, sell the guns. Something's wrong here. So putting additional restrictions on FFLs is not the protocol. It's further disseminating what's going on and having a higher cognizance, wouldn't you say?
I'm not sure what additional restrictions you're talking about when it comes to FFLs.
Obviously, right now down in Arizona, we have further paperwork to fill out if you're selling long guns.
Well,
how did that come about?
Well, 4 states, the border states, have been asked, if you sell long guns like AK-47s, more than 2 guns in a 5-day period, that ought to be reported to ATF, which is consistent with what they have to do now when it comes to the sale of handguns. That's all we've asked. And that's a nationwide thing that's been in effect, the handgun restriction, since the 80s, I think probably since the Reagan administration. And all we've said is the 4 states along the border where the greatest amount of trafficking occurs into Mexico, that you have this additional requirement. And a federal judge here in Washington has said that that is appropriate.
I find it interesting. It's back here on the East Coast dictating West Coast. But, you know, hypothetical. So what do you think the penalty should be for a cabinet member, sworn officer of the law, who comes to testify before Congress and knowingly lies?
Well, hypothetically, there's a perjury statute, there's a false statement statute. I don't know what the penalties are. I mean, it's 10 years. I'm not sure whatever. We have something in Title 18 that already answers that question.
Well, I'm one of those people that I find it disdainful about how we've conducted business over this. If it was any other state than Arizona, I think that we would have seen different results and different penalties and different critical people and manpower put towards this to find this and being much more cooperative. And I'm very disturbed by that.
And we've talked awful lot about during, the Republican primary.
The gentleman's time has expired. Is there a pending question you're answering, Mr. Attorney General?
I think I was.
Okay, then feel free to answer the question.
I was just saying that, the notion that we are somehow looking at this in a regional way and that a particular region of the country is not getting the attention that it deserves, or it's not being taken as seriously as it might if something happened back in the East Coast, or your reference to a judge here in Washington. This is an American problem. This is an American problem. And what I have tried to say is that, we too often think about these things as border problems, when the reality is that what happens in Arizona, what happens in New Mexico, California, Texas, will have a direct impact in Chicago, New York, other parts of California, Washington State, here, Washington, D.C.
I thank the Attorney General. I don't think that there really is a pending question that's responsive to, but I appreciate your comment.